Not only could it be against Henry Cejudo, it could be against Aljo, because the beef is now there. I was going to say the cream is in the pudding, but that just sounded wrong, but the cream is there, all right? What the fuck is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are going to be talking about a few different fighters today. We've got Sean O'Malley, we've got Henry Cejudo, we've got Aljamain Sterling. You've probably heard about it recently on Twitter. Now, just first things first, in my opinion, Sean O'Malley has finally put on his big boy pants. He's been fighting all these freaking bozos and has finally proved himself against Peter Yan. If you guys haven't seen that video, go back. It was uploaded a few weeks ago when he fought. Honestly, I think it was a lot closer than some people may have thought. My initial reaction was Peter Yan got robbed. The reason I'm saying that is because Sean O'Malley got the win, and I think that is important in this division. Now, for those of you that don't know anything about Aljamain and the Henry Cejudo beef that's been going on right now, basically, after Aljamain Sterling beat TJ Dillashaw, he called out Henry Cejudo. I'm not exactly too sure why, because it's not like Henry Cejudo has a belt right now. I do think a win over Henry Cejudo says a little bit to Aljamain's skill level. You cannot discredit the fact that Henry Cejudo is not only an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling from the U.S., which you do not see a lot. You usually see U.S. get the silver or the bronze. You rarely see them get the gold. Just getting that Olympic gold medal is not easy. You're literally competing against the top people in the world in that sport. Not to mention the fact that he's 16-2 in the UFC or MMA in general. He has also achieved accomplishing becoming double champ in the UFC, as in holding two different weight division titles at the same fucking time and looking damn good while doing it. Just that alone is not easy to do in the UFC. Him being included, there's only 3 people that have done that in the UFC. First being Conor McGregor, second being Daniel Cormier or DC, and Henry Cejudo being the third. And just being a part of that, I think, is very, very special, and also goes to show how hard of an accolade that is to achieve. Now, Henry Cejudo's last fight was in 2020, so it gives about 2-3 year time period until now of a break that he's had. Another thing to put into account, though, that I think is important is that he hasn't completely pulled himself out of the fighting game. He's still been very involved with multiple different fighters. It just goes to show how much that he's really invested, how much he's passionate about the sport. The whole thing that kind of made this a big question and how this whole entire Twitter beef and beef kind of started between all these 3 fighters is recently Aljamain Sterling came out and said he has a torn bicep. You might have to get surgery, you might not have to get surgery. I doubt it's that serious where he's going to have to get surgery or something like that. But it could be 3-4 months till we see him again. So that brings us to around almost April, May. That is a good amount of time that we one, haven't seen the belt, and 2, just is kind of holding up this division, because you have Sean O'Malley who's beating Peter Yan, you have Aljamain Sterling who's beating Peter Yan, and within the last year, I would say both of these guys have fought Peter Yan and beat him. At this point, Sean O'Malley's the ranked number 2 guy in the division in my eyes. Whether he's actually ranked number 2 or not, I really don't care. Peter Yan was 1, Sean O'Malley was 2, and now really Sean O'Malley's actually kind of the number 1 contender. Maybe not 2 in the division, but now he should be the number 1 contender in the division after beating Peter Yan. Now, I brought up this Twitter beef, but I actually have the tweets right in front of me right now. Henry Cejudo tweets out, "Sean, you look like a pack of Skittles that had an abortion. Anytime, any place." And he was actually quote tweeting Sean O'Malley saying, "Is Aljo co-main fighting Henry or not? I'm confused. He said his bicep is torn. If that's the case, let me beat up Henry." Honestly, Aljamain Sterling seems like he's going to be out of the question here. Maybe has to vacate the title or something like you saw Yuri Prohovich do. I doubt it would go to that extent if it's not as serious of an injury that Yuri was dealing with his shoulder. But if it's something that has to be 3 or 4 months, you might see an interim belt. You might see them just fight for the actual number one contender for when Aljo comes back. In my opinion, the reason I said Sean O'Malley's putting his big boy pants on, I just said how big of a fighter, how tough of a man that Henry Cejudo is. The fact that Sean O'Malley is willing to step in the ring with Henry Cejudo, you've got to have balls just to call him out, in my opinion. Sean O'Malley, I think a lot of people were saying after the Peter Yan fight, all right, maybe he gets another kind of warm-up fight for Aljamain Sterling. Not saying a top 10 guy, but more or less a top 5 guy as a warm-up. Whether that's going to be headlining an actual fight night and he's going to have a 5-rounder, or he's going to be a co-main somewhere and have 5 rounds, who knows. I do think, though, that Sean O'Malley is starting to be in the talks of this top 5, top guys, really, in this division. I wasn't really expecting him to do that maybe until the middle or end of this year, but he honestly might be having one of these super big fights for the title in this up-and-coming 3 to 6 months, honestly. Not only could it be against Henry Cejudo, it could be against Aljo, because the beef is now there. I was going to say the cream is in the pudding, but that just sounded wrong, but the cream is there, all right? Now, moving on to the past day or two of tweets, this was 112. Aljamain actually comes back. Henry Cejudo, or at Henry. Why you running, Tubbs? I never said the fight is off. I'm handling my bicep with the UFC team and doctors. You can wait another month to get your ass kicked, because if you lose to Sugar Sean, kiss your chance goodbye to face the real king. He's honestly right. If Sean O'Malley beats Henry, Aljamain's not going to want to fight Henry. It just doesn't make sense. But it does make sense then to fight Sean O'Malley, because obviously he's the better guy right now. Sean O'Malley then continues to tweet, at least about this whole entire situation, kind of. He didn't add anybody in this tweet, just tweeted out a simple tweet saying, I'm the champ and it feels great. Now, I don't know if that means that something behind the scenes got confirmed of him getting a fight, or if a contract was put in his face and saying, sign this and you can get a title shot, boy. Whether that's true, whether it's not true, who the fuck knows? But I do think that this whole entire dynamic of these 3 fighters can be very interesting in this division that doesn't really have the most excitement behind it. There's a lot of call-outs that are starting to be made that you usually don't see every day. Not everybody goes out and calls a retired fighter that has been retired for 3 years. And the fact that Aljamain's going out and doing these types of things, I think is only going to be better for the UFC and for the bantamweight division. Now, if we look at Aljamain Sterling's last 2-3 fights, obviously the one against TJ Dillashaw was a fucking cakewalk. Obviously, TJ Dillashaw was dealing with a shoulder injury, so he couldn't defend himself that well, and Aljamain Sterling really capitalized on that. But if you go back a fight or two, you have Peter Yan's 2 fights with Aljamain Sterling. The first one, if you guys remember, Aljamain Sterling was kind of getting his ass kicked, in my opinion. Maybe not in the whole entire fight, but definitely towards the ending rounds, I think Peter Yan was starting to up the cardio, up the performance, and got himself put in a situation where he had that knee-to-head exchange with Aljamain Sterling when he was a downed opponent. And yes, that is an illegal strike, obviously. But in my opinion, Aljamain Sterling was put in a situation where that could happen and didn't get out of that situation fast enough. The second fight with Peter Yan, though, honestly, definitely was more in favor of Aljamain Sterling, and it did go to a decision. And with that, just kind of wrapping all this up, if Aljamain Sterling goes to a decision with Peter Yan in the second fight, and Sean O'Malley goes to a decision with Peter Yan short after that, I do think that if both of them won the decision, which they did, why not have them 2 fight next? It honestly just makes perfect fucking sense. The TJ fight honestly caught me a little off guard when Aljo had that fight come out. I don't know if that was because Aljamain Sterling called TJ out and it was, all right, well, let's get that in fruition. We've got TJ Dillashaw up and coming, which I do think honestly was a good matchup, and it would have been a better fight if TJ Dillashaw had a good shoulder, but Shit happens, and that's how life works, ladies and gentlemen. I honestly do think, though, that the next fight we're going to see is Sean O'Malley versus Aljamain Sterling. I do think that that title shot is next for Sean O'Malley. If not, it's going to be a top 2, top 3 guy. I said top 5 earlier, but honestly, thinking about it now, it definitely should be a top 3 guy at the least if it's not the title shot. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, though. If you guys did enjoy it, do not forget to hit that like button below. Also, while you're doing that, you guys can let me know who you guys think is going to fight next, whether it's Aljamain, whether it's Henry Cejudo, whether it's Sean O'Malley. Whatever you guys think, just let me know in the comments. I always appreciate it and always enjoy listening to what you guys think is going to be happening next. I respond to just about every single comment that you guys have. So we are also going to be having a watch party tomorrow. Literally tomorrow on Saturday, we have One Championship having their event, and we also have UFC Vegas 60 something. Another UFC fight night is going to be live tomorrow. Tune into this channel. We are going to be doing a live watch party for it. Probably going back and forth so we don't watch a lot of the commercial breaks between the two. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, hit that like button at the least. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great fucking day.